Let's get started with our first news story. A fascinating debate between Daniel Cormier and Demetrious Johnson that's been making waves in the MMA world. Recently, Daniel Cormier appeared on Demetrious Johnson's YouTube channel, and the two legends had an intense yet respectful discussion. The topic: Tom Aspinall's legacy, and whether or not he needs a fight with Jon Jones to truly secure it. Demetrious Johnson made it clear he doesn't believe Tom Aspinall needs Jon Jones to solidify his place in history. In his view, Aspinall is carving out his own path, and the absence of a bout with Jones shouldn't diminish what he accomplishes. However, Daniel Cormier had a completely different take. "I think Jon Jones's legacy doesn't need Tom Aspinall as much as Tom needs Jon," Daniel said without hesitation. Demetrious pushed back, saying, "I don't think he does." Daniel doubled down with conviction. "He does, bro." That prompted Demetrious to ask, why? Daniel's answer? It came from experience, raw and honest. "And I'm only telling you this from a guy that lived in that world, right? You live in that division, and you and I also never beat him." Demetrious nodded in agreement. "Yeah." Daniel continued, "No matter what I did going forward, it was always that way. He never beat Jon Jones. That's just the reality." According to DC, if Tom Aspinall becomes the full champion by default due to Jon Jones never returning or retiring, there will always be a gap, a disconnect in the championship lineage. The lineal championship breaks. That line of undisputed champions passed from one fighter to the next is disrupted when someone ascends without beating the man who previously held it. And in this case, Jon Jones never gave Tom Aspinall that opportunity, and Tom never took the belt from Jon directly. Then Demetrious flipped the argument and brought up Francis Ngannou. He said, well, Francis never gave Jon the opportunity either. Daniel had a quick response to that. Francis was going to, he was waiting for Jon, but Jon wasn't ready, he took his time, and Francis had already moved on. Daniel acknowledged that in hindsight, Francis Ngannou probably made the right call. He left the UFC, signed with the PFL, and secured massive paydays in boxing. He changed the game. So where does that leave Tom Aspinall? According to both Daniel and Demetrious, it means there's an unavoidable break in the line of championship legacy. Future fans might look back and wonder, who was the real king of that era? And without that Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall showdown, there will always be an asterisk, a what if, and a sense of unfinished business. It's a powerful debate, and one that shows just how complex legacy can be in MMA. Moving on to our second news story, Dricus du Plessis is trolling Khamzat Chimaev, and it's getting the MMA world buzzing. With their showdown set for UFC 319 just around the corner, the mind games have officially begun, and Dricus is wasting no time turning up the heat. The current UFC middleweight champion decided to throw some playful shade at Khamzat, and fans are absolutely loving the back and forth. It all started when Khamzat Chimaev, known for his cryptic and minimal social media presence, posted a simple photo of himself on X, formerly Twitter. No caption, no words, just a powerful image showing off his intense fight-ready look. Of course, the photo featured his distinctive scar on his lip, a feature that has become part of his iconic, intimidating persona. But instead of letting that photo slide quietly, Dricus du Plessis responded with some classic troll energy. He posted a photo of himself posing in a nearly identical fashion, but with one hilarious difference: he was clearly mocking Khamzat's scar. In the caption he wrote, same, just need a little more work on the beard." It was a cheeky jab at Khamzat's look, and fans were quick to catch on. Of course, the internet didn't take long to react. One of Khamzat's fan accounts replied with their own version of the trolling, posting a side-by-side photo comparison and confidently writing, "We did it better." It was their way of saying Khamzat still came out looking tougher and more stylish. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Dricus du Plessis actually agreed with the fans' comment, but added a clever twist. He replied, "Yes, I agree, but the word better is very, very relative." That comment alone sent fans into a frenzy, as Dricus continued to subtly poke fun at Khamzat while keeping the tone playful, not hostile. This entire exchange is just another layer to the growing tension between the two elite fighters. With UFC 319 getting closer, it's clear that the psychological warfare is already underway. Dricus seems to be embracing his role as the confident, vocal champion, someone who's not afraid to stir the pot a little and take shots at his opponents, even if they're as dangerous and unpredictable as Khamzat Chimaev. And while Khamzat hasn't fired back yet, we all know he's not one to stay quiet for long. Whether it's with another post, a cryptic message, or a face-to-face moment at the press conference, Khamzat vs. Dricus is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated middleweight battles in recent UFC history. From subtle jabs to savage memes, it's clear this fight isn't just physical, it's mental warfare, and both men are playing the game. Who will win the battle of wits? We'll find out soon. Now moving on, Dana White is ramping up the excitement for the upcoming UFC White House event, calling it something unlike anything the UFC has ever done before. According to Dana, this historic event won't just be memorable, it'll be bigger and better than the UFC's already groundbreaking show at the Las Vegas Sphere. And if Dana's words hold true, fans can expect something absolutely legendary. During a recent media interaction, Dana didn't hold back when describing his vision for the card. He confidently declared, "We're going to put on the best card we've ever done for that White House event." He added, "Just think about what I'm going to do for this fight, and now think about what Trump is going to do for this fight. You know what I mean? It's going to be a one-of-one experience." That's a huge statement coming from the UFC president, especially when you consider that the UFC show at the Sphere earlier this year was considered one of the most visually stunning and technologically advanced fight nights in the promotion's history. But according to Dana, the White House event will go even further. He described it in trademark Dana fashion as the Sphere on steroids. That's not just hype, it's an indication of how massive this event is expected to be. Fighters across divisions are reportedly begging to be included on the card, and Dana is taking full advantage of that energy. Whether it's champions, legends, or top contenders, the UFC boss has made it clear, this fight night will be a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Dana didn't go into full detail about the matchups just yet, but he hinted that both the UFC and former President Donald Trump will have a hand in making this event special. Trump, who has been a longtime supporter of the UFC and a personal friend of Dana White, is expected to help amplify the buzz, possibly with some big names in attendance and massive political or celebrity crossover attention. This card could potentially include super fights, title bouts, and a historic setting, all wrapped into one monumental night. And while skeptics may wonder how the UFC plans to top the Sphere event's 360-degree visuals and immersive atmosphere, Dana seems extremely confident. There'll be nothing like it ever again, he said. If UFC fans have learned anything over the years, it's that when Dana White speaks this boldly about an event, he usually delivers. Whether it's shocking returns, surprise appearances, or unforgettable performances, Dana has a knack for creating moments that go down in MMA history. The White House card might just be his most ambitious effort yet. Stay tuned, because if this card turns out to be half as big as Dana is teasing, it could be a defining moment not only for the UFC, but for combat sports in general. Next up, Nate Diaz is pushing hard for a trilogy fight with Conor McGregor. On a recent episode of the Out Cold podcast hosted by UFC legend Chuck Liddell, Nate made his intentions crystal clear. When asked about who he wants to fight next, Nate didn't hesitate for a second. With all due respect to every other fighter in the game right now, Nate Diaz said flat out, if Conor McGregor came back, Conor McGregor. This isn't just about the money or the fame. For Nate, this is about unfinished business. The two warriors have already faced off twice, each earning a victory, and both fights went down as instant classics in UFC history. Fans have been clamoring for a trilogy ever since, and now Nate's ready to make it happen. He emphasized that there's nobody else in the fight game right now that he's truly excited to step into the cage with. He said he wants to see Conor come back and impress everyone again. Not that he needs to, Nate added, but he believes it would be something special to watch the Irish superstar remind the world what he's capable of. And while a lot of people are currently hating on Conor for various reasons, Nate isn't here for that. In fact, he'd love to fight someone who's still considered on top of the world. He thinks Conor still has that spark, that championship DNA, and Nate wants to be the one to challenge it head on. He wants to close the chapter once and for all. When it comes to other options, Nate did mention Ilia Topuria, the new featherweight champ. He gave props to Ilia, saying the guy is doing a really good job in his career. However, Nate also noted that Ilia might be a little small for him physically, but if the right fight offer came around, he wouldn't turn it down. According to Nate, both Conor McGregor and Ilia Topuria are the best options for him right now inside the octagon. But Nate's ambitions don't stop with MMA. On the boxing side, he also dropped some major names. He said that if he gets his way, he'd love to take on Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford in the boxing ring. In typical Nate Diaz fashion, he made it clear, I ain't asking for nothing, but when I whoop someone's ass, I'm going to get them motherfuckers too. That's the plan. No apologies, no backing down. So whether it's Conor, Ilya, Canelo, or Crawford, Nate Diaz is hungry for a fight that means something, not just for the fans, but for his legacy. And with Nate making noise again, you better believe the combat sports world is paying attention. Now to another wild story that's making headlines. Bryce Mitchell almost got into a fight in Abu Dhabi before even stepping into the octagon. That's right, Bryce, who's scheduled to fight, said Nurmagomedov next weekend at UFC Abu Dhabi is already causing a stir, and not for the reasons you'd expect. In a recent clip, Bryce opened up about what he called an educational story, and he made it very clear. This story is not for entertainment. This is an educational story for anyone who hasn't been to Abu Dhabi. What happened? Well, Bryce learned the hard way that cultural norms in the UAE are very different from back home. He explained that it was his first time in Abu Dhabi and he was still learning how things worked over there. After a training session, he decided to take a shower and then head into what he thought was the changing room, like you would at any gym in America. But here's the twist. According to Bryce, in Abu Dhabi, a changing room is not a changing room. You do not change in a changing room. I don't know where you do change, but apparently not there. So Bryce walks out of the shower completely naked, heading into the changing room to grab his clothes and get dressed. That's when he notices 6 Muslim men already inside the room, and they did not appreciate what they saw. Bryce said, "They weren't mad when I walked in. They were mad when I got out of the shower." Instantly, the energy in the room shifted. These men were offended, yelling and walking toward him, clearly furious about what just happened. Bryce, completely exposed and vulnerable, immediately tried to de-escalate the situation. "Hey, I'm sorry, he said over and over, hoping to calm them down. But he admitted he was feeling outnumbered, outsized, and completely exposed in every sense. He even joked about how there was a cold breeze in the room that didn't help his confidence one bit. "Brother, let me tell you, there was a cold breeze in that room," he said with a nervous laugh. Just when things were about to get out of hand, TJ Brown walked in and Bryce said it was like seeing an angel. "That was the happiest I've ever been to see TJ Brown in my life," he recalled. Eventually, the men let him get dressed and Bryce said he had never put on his jeans and boots faster. He grabbed his stuff and got out of there as quickly as he could. His final advice? Do not get naked in front of anybody in a changing room in Abu Dhabi. You might get into a fight. He added, "You might find it funny, but at the time it scared the hell out of me." It's a lesson in cultural awareness. Learn it from Bryce so you don't end up in the same awkward and dangerous situation. Now let's move on to even bigger updates because this is massive. Dana White has officially confirmed the White House UFC project. And yes, he says Jon Jones and Conor McGregor could be on the same card. You heard that right. 2 of the biggest stars in UFC history on the same card at the White House. It sounds like a dream, but this time it's actually being planned. Now sure, it's been 3 days and somehow MMA channels are still obsessing over Conor McGregor's schlong. Dana even had to address it himself, saying, "Come on guys, be better." But let's get back to the real news. Dana made not 1, but 2 media appearances recently and dropped some serious bombs. According to him, the UFC is treating this upcoming event with extreme seriousness. This isn't just another pay-per-view. The plan is to make it the greatest fight card the UFC has ever done. That's right, the greatest card in UFC history, and the centerpiece? Jon Jones and Conor McGregor potentially fighting on the same night on July 4th, 2026 at the White House. Let that sink in. This isn't just hype, the logistics are already underway. Dana revealed that in just 10 days, the UFC team will be flying out to the White House to pitch the full plan directly to Donald Trump himself. Now, whether you're into politics or not, this is going to be historic. Imagine a UFC card held at the White House featuring McGregor, Jones, and possibly other champions and megastars. That's not just next level, that's insane. Dana didn't hold back. He said, "We've already done all the logistics. My team went out there, walked the venue. We're putting together renderings, and once they're done in 10 days, we'll fly to the White House and present it to him." He also confirmed that Ivanka Trump is directly involved in planning the event too. Dana's exact words, "I will blow the doors off this thing. It's going to be one of the greatest events of all time." And he's not exaggerating, he added, "It'll be a full card, the best card we've ever done. Anything is possible." Dana reminded fans that we're still a year away, and a lot can happen between now and then. Title changes, injuries, rising stars, new rivalries. The MMA landscape can shift overnight, but if things go right, this could be a super card for the ages. As he said with a grin, "If we're going to have Conor McGregor and Jon Jones on the same card, I guess sure. I guess we'll do that. That thing will be electrifying." And just like that, the entire MMA world is buzzing. This isn't just going to be a fight card, this will be a fight legacy. The White House, the biggest names in combat sports, and a card that could go down as the most iconic night in UFC history.